Dbg Gallico, Book 5, Chapter 45. By how much more, ablative of comparison, much more severe and more rough, that was the siege daily, so by greatly with a siege, and greatly or chiefly because, ablative absolute clause with a great part of the soldier boys having been finished off ablative manner by wounds, or caused by wounds. The affair had come to the fewness of the defenders, by so much more, that's occurs with quanto, ablative of degree of difference, by so much more the more frequent letters. So as the days went on, more letters and messengers were being sent to Caesar, unlike Cotta and Sabinus, part of which, or part of whom, probably messengers. No, actually, littera is, this is by De Prensa, part of whom, having been cart, the part, that is, were being put to death with torture in the sight of our soldier boys. How sad and how thoughtless and insensitive. There was one Nervian within, by name, ablative manner, perhaps, Verticus, having been born, ablative separation phrase, from a honorable position, who had fled, relative to Verticus, had fled to Cicero from the first of the siege, and who had stood out, had shown him his suam fidem, his faith to him. This man persuades, takes the dative as the object phrase, a slave, ablative of how he does it, by means of the hope of liberty and by means of great rewards. You've got to do this, that he deferat, subjunctive, present subjunctive, that he, this is the purpose for it, that he carry the letters to Cicero. That guy, the slave, carries these tied up, these letters tied up in a javelin, perhaps tied into the javelin, and the Gaul, having been conversant amongst the Gauls, having traveled amongst the Gauls without any suspicion, arrives to Caesar. He knows from him, he would be Caesar, right? From him about the danger of Cicero and of the legion. So in the midst of this treachery, you have one honest Gaul. Again, Caesar is presenting this for the main purpose of showing that it's not just a war of aggression, but that there were defectors even among the Gauls. So it's his political side, but you also see the greater difficulty is happening in the camp of Cicero. But he's doing the right thing. He's sending out letters all the time to Caesar, because Caesar is the general, the imperator. So it's exciting. We have some espionage, and we'll see you shortly. De Bello Gallico 546. Kaiser, man of action, ablative absolute clause, with the letters having been accepted, caricature, around, ablative place phrase, or ablative time expression, the 11th hour of the day, partitive genitive, he sends a nuntium, this old text has a C where it should have a T, a messenger immediately, man of action, to Marcus Crassus, the quaestor, into the Bellovaci, whose relative adjective referring to Marcus Crassus, genitive possessive, of whom the winter quarters were distant from him, About how far? 25,000 of paces. So, in other words, about 25 miles. He orders, comes up first in the sentence, the legion, this is a complement clause of the infinitive type, to set out, ablative place phrase in the middle of the night, and to, part of the complement clause, to come quickly to him, Caesar that is. Crassus came out with the messengers, so he goes quick. He sends to Caius Fabius, the other legate, ut purpose clause, that, or pardon me, probably indirect command, that he lead his legion into the territories of the Atrebates, where relative, this is an adverb, where he was knowing that a journey to be made must be made by himself, indirect question clause. So Caesar's got lots of actions here. He sends to Labienus, he writes to Labienus, dative of reference, or if he might be able to do for the convenience for the state. In other words, a double dative, one a dative of reference, one a dative of interest. That he come, indirect question, probably indirect command here, that he come with a legion to the territories of the Nervii. Putat signals indirect statement clause. He thinks that the rest would be accusative subject phrase, the rest of the part of the army, the remaining part of the army, was not to be waited for. Supply an essay. So therefore, a man of action, because it was distant a little farther, ablative of comparison. He collects around 500 Knights, cavalry, out of the nearest winter quarters. So let's go back in the review. So Caesar, man of action, shows himself to be decisive. As soon as he gets the message, he sends messengers himself immediately to his subordinates, pulling in Marcus Crassus, who was close by. He orders him to set out with the legion in the middle of the night. Wow, get up, boys, time to go fight. And to come quickly, statim to him. And of course, this is the result. Caesar came out, Crassus came out with the messengers. Crassus didn't send a messenger back. He said, let's go. I'll go with the mailman. Caesar also sends to Gaius Fabius, another legate, that he bring his legion into the territories of the Atrebates, where he knew a journey had to be made. In other words, dative of agency. Resultantly, from what we see from this, Caesar wants to come with his forces, the forces of a nearby legate, and on the journey there, he wants to have extra help. So he writes to Labienus if, now notice this is a subjunctive, it is of course a relative question, indirect question clause, but notice he puts it as a conditional. So if it's possible for the Republic, if it's possible, he wants him to come with his legion as well, but that part was not really... the remaining parts of the army who were in winter quarters wouldn't be expected because they were farther away. So he's calling upon his nearest troops and his nearest commanders. Plus, he collects around 500 cavalry out of the nearest winter quarters. Very cool. Caesar is on the march, and as the saying goes in the church, help is on the way.